totally forgot to name that last one. Let's call it something cool. Pad number 2 requires a combinator, mixer, Thor, and initialize it, open it up, and prepare for the classiest synth you've ever experienced in your entire life. Sorry, I wanted an excuse to test out my action movie trailer voice. I'll just add in some notes now. So, name it Glassy Pad before we get to work, and then add a wavetable oscillator on Mixed Waves 1, which had a nice tone to it, to the sawtooth, so there's a nice thick starting sound, and run them through, and then take the ENV to 0, so there's no high end at the start, and the frequency to 200-ish, so there's no high end at the end. High end is the enemy! We're rescuing the mids with this synth, fighting off the evil forces of bass and treble to replace the mid-range on his rightful throne of oral glory! Or something. To add a bit more texture to the tone, add the shaper on bipulse mode, and take the drive up to about 5/8 of the way around. Take the sustain to full, take the attack up a few notches, and the release up a notch as well on this amp envelope down here to make it a bit more pad-like, so it fades in and out rather than being a sharp start and stop. Let's take a listen to it so far. Now that's sounding decidedly Dr. Dre, but we'll make it more paddy yet. To start with that, the chorus is going to be turned on. And let's take the dry wet to about 3/4 of the way around, make it nice and wide in the stereo field. And that the only problem now is that the volume is ridiculously low, since we kind of removed all the harmonic content with that low pass filter. Whoops! Not to worry though, we'll compress and limit the crap out of it. I'm not sure if it's conventionally considered good technique, but it works, and I figure that's what matters. So, right click, create M-class compressor, and compress it with full input gain, and let's take up the output gain as well. Then we're going to maximize the crap out of it with full input gain and hit the 4 milliseconds look ahead. Just in case it clips, now it's volumized to the max. Don't think volumized is a word? Google it. There's like 25,000 results. Most are to do with hair, which I actually found quite useful. Anyway, lastly, we're going to add a DDL1 digital delay line just after the mixer and dial it in generously with 4 steps rather than 3, so it's echoing on every beat, and this will help it to get that beautiful dissonance between the notes that are a semitone apart. So take a listen now. Man, that's louder than I expected. So let's take the maximizer down. Let's take that aux up a bit, give it a bit more delay, bring down the master overall. And there we have it, a beautiful glassy pad. So let's take a look at those notes. Now, they involve the first time that we've approached changing a chord progression of the song. Dun dun dun! We go from the C, here, down to the B flat, later on, here. But in the meantime, we jump to the C sharp for some gorgeous glassy semitonal dissonance. Take a listen to that. And dissonance. Ah, gorgeous. And then the high note that's above it isn't very loud, and I wasn't sure if it fit at first, but I've grown to love it. Like the 4th child in an already hectic family that constantly cries for attention in its youth, but eventually settles down and turns out to be the only one that keeps in touch, since all the other kids are busy being horrendously rich web entrepreneurs. Well, this one is in a conventional job and provides you with grandkids. I completely forgot what this metaphor was supposed to be about, so I'm just going to move on to the next synth. And in an exercise of existential minimalism, and to get across the appreciation of just how much you can make out of what you already have, watch this. We're going to right click and duplicate this synth, this gorgeous Glassy synth, then auto route it, so it connects up to the mixer. Right click auto route device. Then after Thor, we're going to right click and create Scream for Distortion. Remove the cut section and turn the type to A. And now listen to the notes I magically added in just now without the help of any video editing whatsoever. Hear that? Same synth. Yeah, I know. Makes you want to get rid of all the worldly possessions you can't fit into a rucksack, doesn't it? Let's call this one Jainist Monk Pad, to remind ourselves of how more isn't necessarily better. So there we have it. A pad more thick and full than 100 creationists crammed into a shoebox, and a glassy pad more glassy than a glass of glass juice. Oh, and that monk pad is so humble that it requested I didn't use a metaphor to describe it, lest it become proud of itself for some reason. Join me tomorrow for day 5, where I'll be tightening the whole track up with some fancy FX. Hell yeah.